So yeah, Space Marine 2 just got its biggest update ever with a brand new expansion to the Battle Barge, which comes with an entirely new reward system. Yeah, these rewards are actually pretty legit, so there's definitely a reason to check it out. And we also have a brand new vendor as well. Plus, the Raven Guards have been added to the game, and our Beaky Helmet is finally here. We've also got a brand new difficulty. And when I say this update is massive, just take a look at these patch notes. It is absolutely insane. We're going to go over it because there have been so many quality of life improvements, gameplay changes, perk adjustments. Every class has seen some sort of significant buff or change, and also there have been some buffs and changes to your favorite weapons. So yeah, clearly a lot to go over, but you know what? Check this out right here. So yes, my undead horde is slowly but surely growing as I continue to gather powerful champions for faction wars. If you've been following my progress on my new Raid YouTube channel, you know things are getting quite serious on my brand new Raid Shadow Legends account as I fully embrace the undead horde. So far, I've unlocked 13 of the 66 Undead Horde champions, and they are amazing so far. I have big plans for them. And get this, you can obtain Mausoleum, the ultimate Undead Epic Support Champion, to aid you and your Horde in battle right now for free. All you have to do is download Raid for free by following the link in the description below, or follow the QR code on the screen, and be sure to enter Mage Out in the promo code section of the game. And yes, you'll get a bunch of starter resources as well. And if you also follow that link in the description or scan that QR code, you'll obtain Tagore and Ugo, 2 epic support champions for free as a new user, and even more starter resources. But let me tell you what, the Undead Horde has some amazing champions. Take the Corpse Collector, for example, with their ability to suppress enemies with debuffs and can even leech health from enemies, or perhaps the Temptress, who could tag team with the Seducer to gain an extra turn on the field. And you gotta love Doomscreech, who can buff allies' defense to keep the team going strong. There's tons of options. So join me right now in Raid Shadow Legends for free by following that link in the description below, or by scanning that QR code on the screen, and obtain 2 epic support champions, Tagore and Ugo, for free as a new user. Or hey, you could start a new free-to-play account as well, and you'll also receive a ton of starter resources for free to give you the best start in Raid. Check it out. All right, so here we go. Yes, this is the brand new expansion to the Battle Barge. We are in the Data Vault, and it is beautiful. We have 3 different terminals here: Data Slates, Ordeals, and of course Research Center. And there's some really cool in-game rewards tied to this Data Vault that we're going to go over. But man, this is absolutely beautiful. Plus, there is a brand new shopkeeper over this way. We're going to talk more about him in just a moment, but let's get into what we can do with the Data Vault and the reward system. So we have data slates. You guys know what these are, but you can find them all here in one area, and you can continue collecting them and see which ones you need to grab. But you can also listen to them as well, which is really cool. But let's get into the ordeals and the rewards. So yes, this is a new kind of like currency system in the game, and it's tied to the story, operations, eternal war, and so on and so forth. But you know, for example, with Titus's story, we've completed a lot here. And you go in here and you collect your reward. And as you can see, I currently have 10 currency up here, top right corner here. And they're simple milestones. Like for the campaign, it says discover the chaos presence on Kandaku. That's super easy, right? Now you go over here to Research Center once you are happy with how many ordeals you actually have. And usually the cost of each research is about like 9, as you can see here. But we do have different categories. We have of course, Forces of the Imperium that you can learn about, which of course includes Captain Adrian Iden and so on and so forth, and Tyranids you can learn about, and Forces of Chaos. But let's go ahead and do some research, shall we? So we have Captain Adrian Iden. Let's research him. So here we go. We can learn about him, but what's really important about this system that's super noteworthy is that each category has milestones up here. You have, of course, this milestone. Once you reach a certain threshold, you will earn 300 requisition. And then once you enter into this threshold here, you would get the Imperious Reaver's icon, which is a cool cosmetic. And then finally, we would obtain the Inquisition insignia as well. So actually some pretty cool rewards, and they're actually different dependent on what research center you're under. So if you really want to go after a cool reward that like catches your eye, you definitely want to just focus in on filling out all of one category instead of spreading your points everywhere, you know. So it's wise just to go in here and be like, oh man, you know what? I really like the Honored Auto Bolt Rifle, for example. That's really cool. So you want to go in here and actually focus in on the Adeptus Astartes for sure. But they also have the Sons of Gilliman icon, and then the Requisition, again, 300, which is, I think, the first starting milestone for all these categories. Let's see what else we have for the Tyranids here. Yep, again, Requisition 300, and then we have the Atlantean Spears icon. But what is this? Tyrannic War Veteran. Damn, these are actually legit, I gotta say. I remember them teasing this stuff. And then we have Traitorous Thunder Hammer. Dude, okay. That is badass. All right, so that one, I think a lot of you guys will focus in on this one for sure. Forces of Chaos seems to have one of the best rewards there. And then you have the Thousand Suns icon as well. And again, Requisition 300 for, of course, your Force of Chaos. So some really cool stuff going on here with the Data Vault area. And yes, of course, many of you probably have noticed I'm wearing the brand new Raven Guard armor. We're going to take a look more in detail about that one. Yes, they did add the beaky helmet as well. We'll dive into that. But here is the new Shopkeeper data refinement. So you're probably wondering, what is this? So let's go ahead and talk to him and find out. So yes, this is really cool. It's kind of like a conversion system where you could take your existing armory data, the lower tier ones, and actually use them to buy higher tier ones, which is very, very cool. It's a pretty simple system. You've probably seen it in many different RPGs as well. And then you can also, on top of this, use your armory data to buy requisition points as well, which is a huge game changer. And I'm kind of curious to see how this system might tie into the future of the game, by the way, simply because, yeah, you got to remember we are going to be getting a horde mode. So I am very curious to see if they're setting this game up for something bigger down the road. We do know about that horde mode, but I'm wondering what like year 2 will bring with this sort of stuff. Anyway, that's me theorizing. We also have the armoring hull. Let's dive into this. And yes, they did add the Raven Guard in here, and we have, of course, the Black Guard, the Rivalers, Raptors, Death Spectras, also the Knights of the Raven, which, damn, that looks absolutely amazing. This one is probably one of my favorites, Iron Ravens. I don't know what it is about this one. This looks absolutely badass. That is my ultimate goal right there. And then the Necropolis Hawks. Look at them. Dude, love it. And finally, we got the Rift Stalkers. But that's not all. We also have the Mark 6 Corvus. The Beakies are now in the game. Look at them. And you can have it with or without the emblem. So there are choices there, which is really, really cool. And of course, they did add in the Salamanders. And I know a lot of you guys are pretty much split on your opinion about them adding it for the Sniper class. But hey, you know what? It is what it is. We have the Salamanders for the Sniper. And yes, if we head on over to the terminal here, we do have a brand new difficulty that has been added in here, which is absolute. But it does require you to, of course, complete the lethal threat level to unlock. So yeah, I actually need to get busy with that one for sure. If anyone wants to join my squad, let me know. Also, it looks like there's bonus XP going on right now, so this is the perfect time to hop on. So hell yeah. And holy crap, before I forget, yes, they did add in an entirely new PvP map here. So we're going to switch game mode. Trying to get into PvP right now. Kind of curious to see if anyone actually ventures in here. We'll find out. Bring on the PvE content, the horde mode. But yeah, I say we hop into those patch notes right now. A lot of stuff has been improved, added to the game. We're also going to get into this right here, the gameplay and balancing, perk update, weapon perks, and gameplay quality of life. That's what I really want to focus on here, because I did go over pretty much everything already, the data vault. Here's the new PvP map, by the way, which I have not yet showcased because I cannot get into a match yet. I haven't showcased the Biovore. Cannot wait to face off against that new enemy type. We got the emote system, which was added, by the way, as well. So now you have several different emotes you can do with your friends and stuff. I think they're going to expand that to do co-op emotes in the future as well. We already went over the armory data refinement and then the new PvE difficulty. And then, yeah, there's a new FOV slider on PC. So this is really cool, as you can see right here. So support for like ultra wide and stuff like that. Now you can also opt in PvP crossplay option for consoles as well, which is awesome. They said they have lifted the restriction on crossplay for PvP across PC and consoles. So now you can play with your buddies if you're on different platforms, which is super nice. They also added in those new finishers for some of the enemies, so look out for those. Additional mastery for full progression. So what's this? When a weapon is fully upgraded, the player is now rewarded an additional mastery point, works retroactively as well. And then we have a quick match bonus going on right now. It says players will now receive additional bonus XP if they play in quick match as a reward for not being able to select the operation they're playing. So they really want to encourage you to actually get in with randoms, I suppose, and not just go after one operation and focusing on that. Now, new season pass content. I already went over that. The Salamanders and the Raven Guard. I think a lot of you guys will be partial to the Raven Guard. Now, customization, it says share slots for skin recolor. Added a new slots tab in the customizer for share to color presets. Now, this preset can be used across any class and any game mode as well. Check that out. Custom coloring pattern type. Nice. I didn't get to try that out, darn it. I'll have to showcase that, hopefully. Now, it says added chapter decals for right shoulder pad for Death Watch fans. Oh, nice. There we go. I remember a lot of you guys wanted that. All base chapter decals are now available for the right pauldron. These only need to be unlocked once, allowing you to place them on either pauldron. Sweet. That's awesome to hear. And then we have customization bug fixes. Okay. They fixed some bugs there. I'm not going to go over that. Yes, the gameplay and balancing. This is what I was looking for here. Let's take a look at this. Class perk update. Balancing wise, the focus of this update was to review perk trees of all classes. There were clear outsiders that didn't get picked. While there are some nerfs in this list, the vast majority of changes are buffs that should benefit different playstyles. With the next patch, we will be focusing on weapon perks and weapon class restrictions. Oh boy, so there are some nerfs. We'll find out what those are. So here's the tactical perks and their changes. Overall, fixed damage bonus from multiple Auspex scan perks stacking incorrectly. So they found that several Auspex scan perks were not stacking correctly when used together. This had to be fixed to ensure functionality. We will be watching for Auspex scan and will make adjustments in the future if this fix makes the ability not as effective as it originally was. Okay, so we're gonna have to watch out for that one. Also, we have heightened vigor, knockback immunity effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds, added melee and gunstrike bonus damage effect, noise, that's a buff. Communion of fire, recoil reduction bonus increased from 20% to 25%, added a range damage bonus effect against extremist level enemies. And close targeting, this perk effect has been reworked. The new version is when Auspex scan is in cooldown, melee damage increased by 15%. From when Auspex scan is in cooldown, melee damage increased by 50% against Minoris level enemies. That's actually really significant right there. No, the perk was originally intended to be used to crush hordes of Minoris level enemies, but we decided to expand its effect to other enemies, lowering the bonus a bit to avoid overpowering it. Okay, interesting changes there. Now, Signal Jammer, what's going on there? Added an effect of automatically killing an enemy who tries to call for reinforcements. Now, here's a little bit of a dev note here. The original perk was not very effective, and we wanted to add some greater utility to it. All right, so that would be considered a buff, I suppose. Now, also, Plasma Boost. Activation threshold lowered from 50% overheated to 30% overheated. Bonus damage increased from 30 to 40%. Added in effect to reduce the energy cost charged by 1. So that is definitely a buff. What about Steady Aim? What's going on here? The perk effect has been reworked. The new version is weapon spread and recoil is reduced by 20%, and range damage against terminus level enemies is increased by 10%. From recoil is reduced by 10%. So seems like a buff with that one as well. And we also have this one, Aligned Aim. Fixed a typo. Let's say the perk provides 5% bonus damage instead of the actual 15%. So that's just like a typo thing. And then what's going on with improved efficiency? It says change the perk activation condition from scanning 20 enemies with one Auspex scan restores equipment charged by 1 to scanning 10 any enemies or 3 Majoris level or higher enemies with one Auspex scan restores equipment charge by 1. That I would consider to be a buff. Now it says this is a great perk, but we found that it performed worse on higher difficulties and against chaos in particular. The new effect should fix that difference. Noise. Now, expert timing says this bonus damage reduced from 100% to 75%. Fixed incorrect perk effect, reducing zone's duration instead of Mark's duration. What did the dev team have to say about this one? This perk has performed much better than we originally planned, especially with the bug that was causing incorrect stacking of damage from multiple perks. So we want to try nerfing its bonus damage a bit while buffing adjacent perks. It should provide more build options to experiment with. Okay, we'll see how you guys feel about this one. This is going to be an interesting one for sure. Now, radiating impact increase perks damage from 75 to 100, increase perks radius from 5 to 10, added effect radius in description, and then added damage scale by difficulty. They did note here damage dealing perks previously did not scale with difficulty. We plan to keep this to make enemies harder to defeat, but we found that on higher difficulties, these perks rarely made a significant contribution. So now, several of these perks will have higher damage as difficulty increases. Okay, now versatility. Bonus damage increased from 20% to 25%. Nice little buff there. Emperor's Vengeance says fix restoring grenades for the grenade launcher. Now restores 1 grenade per activation. They did say this. Unfortunately, restoring a full set of grenades every 30 seconds was never intended to be the case and has proven disastrously effective. We understand that this will significantly nerf the perk and we'll be watching if this makes it less popular. If so, we will be making changes in the future. And I do remember seeing you guys like talk about this on Reddit and even in my own comments, and it was very divisive. Some of you guys want it to be nerfed. Others are like, why nerf the fun? Why would you do this? So we'll see how this one pans out within the community. Now, target lock. Bonus damage increased from 25% to 75%. That's actually a huge bonus damage increase right there. That is a massive buff. Precise calibration. Fix a bug where this perk affected equipment damage. Also, concentrated fire says bonus damage increased from 100% to 120%. The duration of the Auspex scan zone is now extended by 40%. Nice. What about assault perks? Let's get into it. Wing Fury. Bonus damage increased from 25% to 40%. That's a pretty good buff. Overcharge. Bonus damage increased from 15% to 25%. We're seeing some good buffs here. And Retribution says bonus damage increased from 15 to 25%. Effect duration increased from 10 to 20 seconds. Nice. Ascension added damage scale by difficulty. Armor reinforcement. Fix incorrect armor restoration and updated localization to better reflect the intended effect on the perk. 1 armor segment restored per non-lethal gun strike. Now, they did say this. Initially, the armor restoration effect was equal to the finisher, which allowed this perk to restore all armor on any gun strike to bosses. It allowed almost infinite armor restoration. We will be watching this perk and will make adjustments in the future if this fix makes it unpleasantly weak. So that would be considered a nerf, I suppose, so they're going to watch out for it. Now, consecutive execution says cooldown reduction from 180 to 90 seconds. The perk no longer goes on cooldown when a player has a full pack of equipment as well. Now, proven efficiency says bonus damage reduced from 50 to 30%. They did say this, the perk has performed much better than we originally planned, so we want to try nerfing its bonus damage a bit while buffing the adjacent strategic strikes perk. Squad cohesion should be pretty great as is. It should provide more build options to experiment with. That's going to be up to you guys, so to decide if that's true or not, we'll see how that pans out. Ariel Gray says this bonus damage increased from 25 to 30%. Effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds. So overall, it seems like there are some buffs there, but I'm kind of curious to see how you guys receive some of those nerfs as well. What about the Vanguard? So we have moving target, damage reducing bonus increase from 1 to 2% by attack, maximum bonus increase from 15 to 20%. The time for next attack has been increased from 3 to 5 seconds, and this time no longer counted during finisher animations. Okay, we'll see how that one goes. Now, Retribution says bonus damage increased from 20% to 25%. Effect duration increased from 10 to 15 seconds. And then Restless Fortitude says damage reducing bonus increased from 10 to 20% as well. Now, Zone of Impact says this. Increased perks damage from 20 to 50. Increased perks radius from 5 to 10. Then added damage scale by difficulty. Now, for the thrill of the fight, damage reducing bonus increased from 15 to 20%. Effect duration increased from 3 to 5 seconds. And for tactical prowess, it says this. Now it also allows the grapnel launcher to activate finisher on enemies who have less than 25% HP without this perk. The grapnel launcher can do it only with incapacitated enemies. That's actually pretty badass. I like it. Note, grapnel launch has had a hidden mechanic this whole time. When used on an incapacitated enemy, Vanguard would automatically activate a finisher on them. It is not a life important feature, but pretty neat in combat. We would like to highlight it with this perk. Sweet, that sounds awesome actually. Close combat focus, the perk effect has been reworked. The new version is you take 20% less range damage from you take 20% less melee damage, but 10% more range damage. Now they did say this, the perk was supposed to exchange one type of protection to another, but over time we were unable to make this exchange pleasant for players. So we decided to just give a bonus to this perk. Okay. Now consecutive execution cooldown reduced from 180 to 90 seconds. The perk no longer goes on cooldown when the player has a full pack of equipment as well. Now Unmatched Zell says health regeneration bonus increased from 5 to 20%. That's actually really good there. Our perk now works against Terminus level enemies as well. So that is a huge buff. That's nice. Now Shockwave added damage scale by difficulty, and then we have Tenacity bonus. Damage increased from 25 to 40%. Effect duration increased from 10 to 15 seconds, and the cooldown was removed, which means we got ourselves a buff overall. And then Grim Determination increased bonus damage from 10 to 15%. Emperor's Blessing cooldown is reduced from 180 seconds to 120 seconds. They did say this: the Emperor appreciates your hard work in exterminating the enemies of humanity, and now grants this blessing a little more frequently. Love it. Upper Hand, effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds, and then Conviction says damage reducing bonus increased from 15 to 25%. They're really preparing us for this new difficulty, aren't they? Damn. Inner Fire, it says added condition of finishing Majoris level enemy or higher to activate the perk. No, this is a good perk both in terms of effect and balance, but finishing off very weak enemies allows the ability to be restored to effectively, so we added a limitation here. And we got collateral damage. They increased the perk's damage from 5 to 10, added damage value to perk description, and then they added damage scale by difficulty, which is pretty important. And for Adrenaline Rush, it says health restoration is reduced from 10 to 5%. Oh boy. Okay, so it says this is a great perk, but unfortunately allows experienced vanguards to solo all their problems and leave their team to be torn apart by the enemy. Our test shows that even despite significant numerical reduction, this is a very strong perk, and as always we'll be watching to see if this perk is nerfed too much. Okay, we'll see, because I know a lot of you guys like to be kind of like lone warriors and don't like to be kind of tied down to like the team sometimes, but let's get into the sniper perk. So Camo Cloak class perk. Added bonus damage value to the perk description. Iron Grip says the perk effect has been reworked. The new version is weapon spread and recoil is reduced by 20%, and range damage against Terminus level enemies is increased by 15% for Bolt Sniper and Stalker Bolt rifles. From the Bolt Sniper rifles and Stock Bolt rifles is reduced by 30%. Okay, interesting. Now we have Purification. Now also restores all contested health when manually activating Camo Cloak. Love that. Okay, that's... Man, I can't wait to hop in here and mess around with all these new changes, I gotta say. All right, Persistence added heavy hit protection and knockback reduction effect. Effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds. Melee Mastery bonus damage increased from 10 to 20%. Vantage Point now also works on secondary weapons. And then Dexterous Hand says reload speed increased from 15 to 20. Added Bolt Carbine spread and recoil reduction effect. Precision targeted spread reduction bonus increased from 20 to 25. Add a range damage bonus effect against extremist level enemies. Efficient Readiness now also provides a 10% movement speed boost effect while Camo Cloak is active. Okay, so they did note this. This was an effect we wanted to try out initially, but only managed to do it now. Use it to reposition yourself and strike down enemies, but not to abandon your teammates. Nice. Okay. That one actually sounds really cool. I really do love how it does that boost to the movement speed. Now, adaptability. Bonus damage increased from 15 to 25%, and effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds. So that is a noteworthy buff there. Tactical Ambush says bonus damage increased from 100% to 150%. Ambush also sees a buff of cooldown reduced from 30 to 25 seconds, and then Pattern of Excellence reduce the number of consecutive headshots required to activate the perk from 4 to 30. So overall, great buffs right there, but let's talk about the heavy. So Enhanced Force, the perk effect has been reworked. The new version is melee damage increased by 30% from damage from charged melee attacks increased by 20%. No, we would like the possibility to cover heavy's almost only weakness, melee combat, with perks, so we decided to significantly improve this perk. Hell yes, we got ourselves a buff. Now, encompassing Agus says damage reducing bonus increased from 20% to 25%. Adamant will effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds. Saving Grace says added full armor restoration effect. They did note this: selflessly saving your allies is a noble act that should be rewarded more than the ability charge used for it. You know, all I'm thinking about with all this stuff that they're mentioning with team play, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works in horde mode. I keep thinking about horde mode with a lot of these changes. Now, offensive capability increased perks damage frequency, added damage scale by difficulty. They also did something to the consecutive execution. What'd they do? Cooldown reduced from 180 to 90 seconds. The perk no longer goes on cooldown when a player has a full pack of equipment. Field adjustment says Iron Halo durability reduction changed from 30 to 25%. Coolant reserves added 50% bonus damage. That's a buff. Auxiliary ammunition fixed incorrectly working cooldown. Strategic stand added heavy hit protection and knockback reduction effect. They also did some power regulator changes. Iron Halo charge drain reduction changed from 15 to 20% right there. And then Wrath of the Imperium says increased perks damage from 50 to 100. That's significant. Radius increased from 5 to 10 and added damage scale by difficulty. That's a great buff. Conversion field fixed a typo that stated the perk worked at 100 meters instead of the actual 10 meters. Sure, it was too good to be true, but we'll be watching this perk in case it needs a buff. And finally, we got the Bulwark. Let's go. Overall, a few perks have been swapped. Note, we noticed that players were making the same build for Bulwark with some minor differences and swapped 2 pairs of perks to provide players with more build options, making the perk sets in tiers more versatile. Okay. Conviction. Effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds. Armor of Contempt added damage scale by difficulty. Focus Restoration, renamed from Reinforced Ceramite, says the perk effect has been reworked. The new version is every 40 seconds, all squad members automatically restore 1 armor segment. From the delay before armor begins to passively regenerate is reduced by 5 seconds for all squad members. Let's see the explanation on this one. We notice that this perk hardly works in combat, essentially only reducing the wait for armor to regenerate after combat. So we decided to try a different approach and made armor regenerate periodically. Let me know how you guys feel about this one. Very curious for you Bulwark mains. Now, Concussive Force says increased perks damage to 200%. Purity of Purpose, increased perks damage frequency, added damage scale by difficulty. Intimidating Aura says added cooldown 5 seconds, added damage scale by difficulty. Now, they did go on to say this perk has been performing incredibly well on lower difficulties, and with the damage scale, it should be just as powerful on higher difficulties. We do not want to reduce its damage of the perk, so we decided to add a small cooldown only to prevent spamming it. Oof, okay, we'll see how that's received. That could be an annoyance for some of you guys, but we'll see. Still Within says damage reducing bonus increased from 25% to 30%. Rapid regeneration chapter banner duration reduction is changed from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. Now, Merciless Resolve added 15% bonus melee damage effect, and then Glory Shield fixed the typo in the description, which did not specifically range damage type. And the damage reducing bonus increased from 10 to 20%, added 20% bonus to banner's duration. They also did forward momentum here. Bonus damage increased from 25 to 30%. Effect duration increased from 5 to 10 seconds. Scrambled targeting damage reduction bonus increased from 20 to 25%. Then armor reinforcement fixed incorrect armor restoration, updated localization to better reflect the intended effect. Perk 1 armor segment restored per non-lethal gun strike. And then effect formation now works against extremist level enemies as well, so that's a buff. Invigorating Icons is added effect of slowing by 100%. The recharge time of the banner twice longer. What's the explanation here? We have noticed that this perk often encourages player to hold off of using banner until the very last resort. We like this change in strategy, but the perk itself makes banner overpowered, so we want to tone it down so that it requires more thoughtful timing when activating the ability. Okay, we'll see how people receive that one. That one's going to be an interesting one. Now, Inspiration says bonus damage increased from 10 to 20%. I'm a little worried about some of the changes, not going to lie with that one, but we'll see. So yeah, let's get into the weapon perk changes. It just keeps going. Dear God. So contingency plan perk, multi-melta, heavy bolter, heavy plasma, incinerator, excuse me, fix incorrect numbers in perk description, elite restoration perk, fix incorrect display of enemy class in perk description. Okay, so that's all minor stuff. Melee weapons update. Okay, perfect block for all melee weapons. They go on to say this: we think blocking weapons were almost in a good spot. This is a significant buff that should make blocking weapons more viable versus chaos enemies because they don't have a lot of melee combos, making it difficult to gain full damage bonus from blocking weapons. Okay, so that's going to be interesting. So we have adrenaline surge stacks needed for maximum effect are decreased to 2 from 3. Armor recovery from maximum effect is decreased from 2 to 1. So they really do want you using that adrenaline surge system, it seems. So for the Power Fist, they say Power Fist is one of the least popular melee weapons, sadness, despite being one of the coolest. We are making it more practical in combat by extending its AoE damage and making it easier to charge. Okay, great. Maximum charge time reduced from 3.9 seconds to 2.5 seconds for hold attacks. Now, hold attacks can now be partially charged. It used to be 1 charge for full damage bonus. Now it's 2 quicker charges for 50% smaller bonuses. And forward cone damage is increased by 10 meters, making it more viable in mid-range. So a good reason to try that out. Okay, we'll have to try it. Now, we got some firearm updates for PvE only. Bolters. While bolter weapons are finding their spot in the game, we are making another round of bolter weapon buffs. Hell yes, to make them more viable for the new difficulty. So we have overall, as you can see, I'm not going to read all of these. You guys can see it here clearly. We have damage bonuses throughout 8%, 6%, 5%, you know. For basically every single bolter type of weapon, we're seeing damage increases across the board. You guys can pause it there, of course. But yeah, some nice buffs there. Now, grenade launcher rebalance. Previously, the artificer and relic damage values were set incorrectly with a combination of buggy damage bonuses stacking from Auspic Scan. Now, this resulted in insane damage values. While the damage reduction looks big, on paper, you could still obliterate entire waves with GL, with the grenade launcher. However, with changes below, you won't be able to one-shot bosses anymore. So they reduced the damage amount for Ox grenade launcher version from 2500 to 2550 to 75. So yeah, that is a nerf there. And I guess, are they showing like an example here? You can still obliterate effortlessly entire waves of enemies, gameplay above captured in lethal. So they're trying their best to, you know, say it's going to be okay. We'll see, though. We'll see. That's going to be up to you guys if it's going to be okay. Now, equipment. These chains are made to make Terminus enemies more resistant to explosive damage, so they cannot be killed by grenade launcher that easily. In return, we are buffing equipment damage to make it more viable against Terminus enemies. So, the Melta Bomb damage buff. Increased Melta Bomb damage amount from 201 to 221. Reverted reduced damage to bosses introduced in previous patches. Okay, crack. Grenade damage buff. Increased crack grenade damage amount from 110 to 120. Bosses explosive sensitivity rebalance. Change boss sensitivity to equipment and grenade launcher from 4.4 to 0.25. Now, gameplay quality of life. Let's talk about it. Kick votes can no longer be launched in the final stage of operation. Hell, yes, that was a problem. I'm so grateful they actually listened to that feedback. I saw that time and time again. So hopefully that does alleviate some of the worry about getting kicked from some a-holes that just wanted control. And then we have grapnel launcher ability, incapacitate enemies that were hit by grapnel launcher, which allows Vanguard to automatically finish off an enemy upon landing, can no longer be finished off by other players while Vanguard is being pulled. Vanguard can no longer take damage when pulled to an enemy. Jump pack. And yeah, the fixes do continue on. Here's some PvP changes as well. You guys can pause the screen or read the patch notes for yourself. AI changes. And then also some noteworthy changes to the enemies, though. Specific AI enemy changes here. Reduced damage sensitivity to normal weapons for the Bio Titan, and then the Zoanthrope and Neurothrope. Gun strike, perfectly dodging Zoanthrope and Neurothrope beam attacks will now trigger a gun strike. That's cool. Neurothrope says fix a bug where Neurothrope would freeze in the air when incapacitated or after some attack. And some other adjustments to a lot of the AI in here. Some of it's minor, of course, and then operation fixes as well, and general fixes. So you guys can read over these yourself. They also did say they did actually optimize memory as well slightly and performance and render improvements and so on and so forth. So overall, an amazing update. I got to hand it to this dev team. Holy crap, they are super passionate about this game, and it gets me so hyped for the future of the Space Marine franchise as a whole, and of course Space Marine 2. I'm really crossing my fingers here that year 2 is something exceptional and they just keep going with it and they don't just abandon it, you know. And by the way, if you want to join me in my adventure with Raid Shadow Legends, be sure to click that link in the description below to download Raid for free, or the QR code on the screen, and you'll get 2 free epic support champions, Tagore and yes, Ugo, and also a bunch of free starting resources to give you the best start in Raid Shadow Legends. So join me in Raid Shadow Legends. Let's do this. We will be getting like another Space Marine 2 type game, by the way. You got to remember that. It is on the horizon. It is that Turok Origin. So I think it's going to be fun to be rotating between Space Marine 2 and Turok. That's what I'm going to be doing. I cannot wait to do that. But yeah, some really cool stuff going on here with Space Marine 2. Stay tuned for more. Smack that subscribe button if you are new. Smack that like button. This was a long video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you all next time. Take care.